All right, welcome everyone. This is the beginning of the Expressions Celebration and Reunion of Poets and Friends. And we're glad that everyone is here. My name is GarrisonM, and I am filling in for Spirit Tom, world poet, who is in Toledo, but he is with us here somewhere in the room. And we should all say, hi, Tom.
Hi, Tom. Spirit Tom is around somewhere.
What is he doing in
It only needs to be here briefly because Tom is doing something spooky and literature and things like that.
Wait a minute. You said, I thought you said Toledo. So, it's Toledo.
Toledo. Yeah.
Tom is the Edgar Allan
Toledo. I mean,
yeah.
He said he's the Edgar Allan Poe jukebox.
No, Toledo's an open.
is he really nice?
Which means that they
And
throw out the
Spain.
name of a Poe story, and he does it.
That's the joke.
Wow.
Wow.
It rhymes
I have to
with
catch him next year.
Yeah.
I've seen. I saw Tom on Facebook, and I can tell you that he's pretty scary.
Last night
Oh, he was.
yeah. That was great.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
wonderful. Makeup was
Good
good.
Well, I do wish he was here, but we will dedicate our performances to him.
Yes, indeed.
The plan for this evening is to endeavor performances of memorized or improvised poetry. So, in a sense, we're inviting our performers to be off book. It's an invitation. So, obviously, if you're on book, you won't be ousted from the hall. But the endeavor is to try to speak more from the mind and the heart when possible. So that's kind of the idea for the poetry reading. In theory, I'm on the docket, but we have a great list of folks that are hopefully all going to be here this evening. So I'm going to introduce the folks who are on the program. And then if there's any time before the break, I will squeeze in my Edgar Allan Poe performance.
Ah, okay.
But I'm happy to defer. I'm happy to defer to the folks who are here.
No. We want to hear you.
Do
How
it.
about you start us off?
Do you want it now?
Yeah.
How about you
Okay,
start
but-
us off?
Yeah.
Okay, but then you have to really think darkly, right? You have to
Oh.
imagine that you're in a dark.
We're just coming off of Halloween, so we can do that.
Okay, you
Yeah.
can do that? All right,
I'm
well,
not
in that
I'm
case,
still in Halloween.
Shouldn't be.
I will endeavor to perform the Raven.
Oh.
Once upon a midnight dreary, while I pondered weak and weary over many a quaint and curious volume of forgotten lore, while I nodded, nearly napping, suddenly there came a tapping as of someone gently rapping at my chamber door. "'Tis some visitor," I muttered, tapping at my chamber door, "only this and nothing more." Ah, distinctly I remember it was in the bleak December, and each separate dying ember wrought its ghost upon the floor. Eagerly I wished the morrow. Vainly I had sought to borrow from my books surcease of sorrow, sorrow for the lost Lenore, for the rare and radiant maiden whom the angels name Lenore, nameless here forevermore. And the silken, sad, uncertain rustling of each purple curtain thrilled me, filled me with fantastic terrors never felt before, so that now, to still the beating of my heart, I stood repeating, "'Tis some visitor entreating entrance at my chamber door, some late visitor entreating entrance at my chamber door. This it is, and nothing more." Presently my soul grew stronger, hesitating then no longer. "Sir," said I, "or madam, truly your forgiveness I implore, but the fact is I was napping, and so gently you came rapping, and so faintly you came tapping at my chamber door, that I scarce was sure I heard you. Here I opened wide the door. Darkness there, and nothing more. Deep into the darkness peering, long I stood there, wondering, fearing, doubting, dreaming dreams no mortal ever dared to dream before. But The silence was unbroken, and the stillness gave no token, and the only word there spoken was the whispered word, Lenore. This I whispered, and an echo murmured back the word, Lenore. Merely this and nothing more. Back into the chamber turning, all my soul within me burning. Soon again I heard a tapping, somewhat louder than before. Surely, said I, surely that is something at my window lattice. Let me see then what thereat is, and this mystery explore. 'Tis the wind, and nothing more. Open here I flung the shutter, when, with many a flirt and flutter, in there stepped a stately raven of the ancient days of yore. Not the least obeisance made he, not a minute stopped or stayed he, but with mien of lord or lady, perched above my chamber door. Perched upon the bust of Pallas, just above my chamber door. Perched and sat, and nothing more. Then this ebony bird, beguiling my sad fancy into smiling. Though thy crest be shorn and shaven, thou, I said, art sure no craven, ghastly grim and ancient raven, wandering from the nightly shore. Tell me what thy lordly name is on the night's Plutonian shore. Quoth the raven, nevermore. Much I marveled this ungainly fowl to hear discourse so plainly, though its answer little meaning, little relevancy bore. For we cannot help agreeing that no living human being ever yet was blessed with seeing bird above his chamber door, bird or beast upon the sculptured bust above his chamber door with such a name as Nevermore. But the raven, sitting lonely on the placid bust, spoke only that one word, as if his soul in that one word he did outpour. Nothing farther than he uttered, not a feather then he fluttered, till I scarcely more than muttered, other friends have flown before. On the morrow he will leave me, as my friends and hopes have flown before. And the bird said, nevermore. Startled at the stillness broken by reply so aptly spoken, doubtless, said I, what it utters is its only stock and store, caught from some unhappy master whom unmerciful disaster followed fast and followed faster, till his burdens one song bore, till the dirges of his hope this melancholy burden bore of never, nevermore. But the raven, still beguiling all my fancy into smiling, straight I wheeled a cushioned seat in front of bird and bust and door. Then, upon the velvet sinking, I betook myself to linking fancy unto fancy, thinking what this ominous bird of yore, what this grim, ungainly, ghastly, gaunt bird of yore meant by croaking nevermore. This I sat engaged in guessing, but no syllable expressing to the bird whose fiery eyes now burned into my bosom's core. This and more I sat divining, with my head at ease reclining on the cushion's velvet lining that the lamplight gloated o'er, but whose velvet violet lining with the lamplight gloating o'er, she shall rest, nevermore. Then methought the air grew denser, perfumed by an unseen censer, swung by seraphim whose footfalls tinkled on the tufted floor. Wretch, I cried, thy God hath lent thee, by these angels he hath sent thee respite, respite and nepenthe for thy memories of Lenore. Quaff, oh quaff this kind nepenthe, and forget the lost Lenore. Quoth the raven, nevermore. Prophet, said I, fiend of evil, prophet still if bird or devil, whether tempter sent or whether tempest tossed thee here ashore, desolate yet all undaunted, on this desert land enchanted, on this home by horror haunted, tell me, truly I implore, is there balm in Gilead? Tell me, I implore. raven, nevermore. Prophet, said I, thing of evil, prophet still if bird or devil. By that heaven that bends above us, by that God we both adore, tell this soul with sorrow laden, if within a distant Aden it shall clasp a sainted maiden whom the angels name Lenore. Clasp a rare and radiant maiden whom the angels name Lenore. Quoth the raven, nevermore. Be that word our sign of parting, bird or fiend, I shrieked, upstarting. Get thee back into the tempest and the night's Plutonian shore. Leave no black plume as a token of the lie thy soul has spoken. Leave my loneliness unbroken. Quit the bust above my door. Take thy beak from out my heart and take thy form from off my door. Quoth the raven, nevermore. And the raven, never flitting, still is sitting on the bust of Pallas just above my chamber door. And his eyes have all the seeming of a demon's that is dreaming, and the lamplight o'er him streaming throws his shadow on the floor. And my soul from out the shadow that lies floating on the floor shall be lifted nevermore.
Yeah.
It's a tongue twister. Our first guest this evening is Susan Summers, of whom I know very little except that I may have met her once in a former life. So here's how it's going to work, folks. If I know you, I'm going to invite you up to the stage and I'll chat with you for a few moments. If I don't know you, I'll invite you up to the stage and I will chat with you. Right. That way, I will know you. I figured, if you don't know people, what a better way to learn about them than in public. So let's have a warm welcome to Susan Summers.
That mic.
All right. And I'll let you figure out how this all works. So, Susan, have you been a poet long?
I started writing poetry when I was 12 because I was very lonely. We had moved.
You moved from where?
We had moved in Georgia. From 4th grade to 5th grade, we changed locations, and I went to a new school, and I was lonely.
So you've been doing
started writing poetry
sort of ever since?
kind of ever since.
Yeah.
And I've always liked the rhythm of words.
Is there a certain type of poetry that you favor? Are you think of yourself as an improv poet, or
No.
do you think of yourself as a sonneteer, or
No.
postmodern pre-Raphaelite?
I like, maybe. No, I like character-driven poetry. I love what you just did. That was, Poe is one of the first things that you really start to, when you start liking poetry formally in high school or middle school. Poe is one of the first ones that you grab onto. So, that's one of the first things I started liking, and then I like the darkness of it. And then, you get like 6 weeks of poetry in high school, if that. So there was your brief introduction. And so that's kind of what I'm going to cover today, is like a skittering through of what I like about different poets that I've met along the way, or been introduced to along the way.
Well, I look forward to hearing it. Welcome, Susan.
And see, I have my cheat book here.
Okay, you can just, so it's there for safety.
For safety. This is really tall.
Yes, it is. Rainbow, I'm not very good at these things.
Just twist that.
I'm afraid of them because
Yeah.
I make them fall.
I do the same thing, so I just try to sit way over here.
Right here. Right here. That's good. Hello. Thank you. I appreciate that. This is just a scattering of some poems that I've liked along the way, and starting, one of the first poets I liked was Robert Frost, and then I met living poets, the real living poets, and so a couple of those are in here, and I think I might end with Song of the Ship from the Ship. Maybe not. That's from a long time ago, but it's one of the kinds of poems that really grabs my imagination. But Song of the Ship, I'm not sure I have it completely memorized, but I have a cheat thing here in case. The first poem is "Nothing Gold Can Stay" by Robert Frost. Nature's first green is gold, her hardest hue to hold. Her early leaf's a flower, but only so an hour. Then leaf subsides to leaf, so Eden sank to grief. So dawn goes down to day, nothing gold can stay. And quite a bit later, I got introduced to Dorothy Parker, and I loved her sarcasm and her wit. And I can identify with this through my teenage years in a lot of ways. So, and now some of it too. This is called Sanctuary. My land is bare of chattering folk. The clouds lie low along the ridges, and sweet the air with curly smoke from all my burning bridges.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then another one by Dorothy Parker, Whistling Girl. Back of my back they talk of me, they gabble and honk and hiss. Let them batten and let them be, me I can tell them this. Better to shiver beneath the stars, head on a faithless breast, than peer at the night through rusted bars and share an irksome rest. Better to watch the dawn come up along a trifling one, than to set a steady man's cloth and cup and wish the day be done.
Wow.
Well, there's more. But that's enough. I knew that was going to happen. I knew that one really well, too. All right, this next one I know I can get through. Conrad Never Had a Chance by Deborah Akers. I never met her, but I feel like I know her. And this is one of those poems, after I read it, it just sat with me for days and weeks afterwards, and I would read everybody this poem and talk on the phone about this poem, and it just sat inside of me, and it just was like, oh, like a stone. But this is such social commentary in this one. I just love it. Conrad Never Had a Chance. Lucy yelled when Conrad cried. Conrad cried when Lucy cried. They screamed along a sad duet, an oft-repeated harmony. She handed him to me over the back fence one day and said, "Take him before I kill him." He was 2, and suddenly silent, owl-eyed at being handed over to a stranger. One purloined blouse and 2 hot checks later, Lucy parked Conrad at her sister's house while she did her days in county. Before he turned 3, he hit the sink and bounced into the wall when sister's boyfriend caught him drinking dirty water out of a filthy sink. He never woke up. And Lucy's sad, bewildered face, looking up from the grainy print of the Statesman. He was just thirsty, she said, just thirsty.
Wow.
And this one's by Scott Wigerman. And this is another one that I read it and it hit me in such a place. I was skimming through a book of poems. I just had to close the book and just go like, okay, I'm just gonna drink my coffee now because I can't read anything else. The words are so carefully chosen. I hope I get this exactly right. It's called Poor Poet. It's a ghazal starting with a line from Emily Dickinson's poem number 224. I've nothing left to bring you, no, so I keep bringing these. Wishes are sometimes lies, I know. For years I've been stringing these. A scrunched up piece of paper and a pen in my pocket, I always have a line. But groceries, I'm winging these. I'm sorry. There's a term there. Dappled patterns of light along the vacant boulevard. The leaves overhead, a chorus of green, softly singing these. Street by street, door to door, a study in misery. No one answers doorbells. I know I've been ringing these. The words do not belong to me, but I claim them. Hush, tender, soothing, acrid, guilt, fester, stinging these. I keep looking up at dreams through the trees. Where do they go? Only so much can be carried, keeping those, flinging these.
Wow.
I know that so well. This haiku by Jan Benson was, it's in the Texas Poetry Calendar for 2015, and it was nominated for a Pushcart Award. And it's a haiku. And it's a wabi-sabi, which is a sad, kind of mysterious haiku. Adobe walls at dusk, crickets knit the name of those who were lost. Of the lost. All right, and this to really challenge myself. I love this poem, and it's ancient, so the syntax is really weird and the words are strange. So I really wanted to challenge myself. Because I wanted to do Lewis Carroll, the Jabberwocky. I can't do the Jabberwocky, I just can't. Alright, Song from the Ship by Thomas Lowell Beddoes. To see, the calm is o'er. The wanton waves leap and sport and rattle along the pebbly shore. The dolphin wheels, the sea cows snort. The unseen mermaid's pearly song comes bubbling up the weeds among. Fling broad the sail, dip deep the oar. To see, the calm is o'er. To see, the wide-winged bark shall billowy cleave its sunny way, and in its shadow, fleet and dark, break, and in its shadows, fleet and dark, break caved tritons, azure day. Like mighty eagles soaring high, or over the antelopes on alpine high, the anchor heaves, the ship swings free. The sails swell full, to sea. Ah, that's hard.
Whose poem was that?
Thomas Lowell Beddoes, and it's from the mid-1800s. Song from the Ship. And I was going to do one of mine, but now I'm flustered. I don't even know if I know my own poem.
Well, we are doing a round robin later.
I'll try that later.
Yeah, do it then.
All right. Another warm hand for Susan.
Nice job.
We're not going to adjust the middle, but that's not good. One of the things I love about listening to Susan, and Susan, I got to say, when you were doing Dorothy Parker, I heard her voice in your voice. And it reminds me that when one memorizes poetry, you lend your personality to the poet. I love that blending that we can share, that we can be part of the poet. And anyway, it really came alive for me while you were doing that. So thank you. Our next performer is Element 615. Is Element 615?
Yes, Mr. Joe Brundage over there.
Are you Element? Oh, you're Element 615. We met one time over dip in the back, and you gave me suggestions about how to do improv. I'm not quite there yet, but anyway, so you're like the guy at Kick Butt.
Yes, sir.
So I see, I know him, sort of. Let's have a warm hand for Element 615.
Give it up for Garrison one more time.
Garrison.
I am busy with work and the festival and what have you, and I completely failed in my attempt to memorize Rudyard Kipling's If.
And I love that. We have to do that together sometime.
That would be a great ensemble. I would love it. That's one of my favorite pieces.
Yeah, I love it.
That one, All the Places You'll Go, and I couldn't find a copy. It's available online, but I couldn't find a copy and printed out in time of Alfred Noyes' Daddy Fell into the Pond.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Wow.
It's one of the first poems I heard as a child that just, as soon as I read it, it's the first time you read, they're all bored and they're tired, and the next thing you know, Daddy fell into the pond. And the visual, the imagery is so powerful in the poem. You are crying, laughing, because you picture your father falling into the water, and all of you are dying laughing. You want to help him, but there's no point. This is too funny. Don't ruin this. Let him struggle his way out. But yeah, that if there was ever a poem that I would have had memorized, it would have been those three. I'm going to do a few poems real quick that I have memorized inside this frame of mine. Let me see here. Which ones? They say that words of conviction are not necessary for those that don't need to speak them. But I miss my friend. Proves that fate is not totally heartless. I beg God forgiveness for what I've done to you. All you've done is show me light that I failed to return. I only sought to imbue you. Be you to you. Impart the joy of a heart that is thankful. It is not that I believe that I was nothing before you, but that I believe that I am something because of you. So, in gratitude, I would take up my sword with your flag in my back and just charge. Fight wars unfit for your army, battles unworthy of your sword. I would stand atop the shoulders of your enemies and proclaim you my friend until their ears rang with the truth that has saved me. Crawl to the darkest of places within thee, find the little girl inside and just sit there with her. Touch my finger to hers and let that be all the light needed. I want to know you like I thought I did, backstage, after the show, with that smile wiped away. I want to know your story. Turn the pages you let no one turn. Give you water for every drop you've poured into the others until your vessel is full again, until you're more than less, more than Alice. As opposed to the feast you've become for all of us, I would cook for you. Labor all day in my kitchen and place a meal before you until you laid back, and feed your heart until you laid back so full. I miss my friend. Proof that fate is not totally heartless. I beg God, proof that fate is not totally heartless, that any man or woman will be happy to hold your hand in theirs. I just want your shoulder with mine, my fist pounding yours. Maybe be what you have been, regardless of the fact that I wasn't the one God gave superpowers. Grant amnesty to the ugliest of your thoughts. I want the wisdom to know not to fix you. Find you at your worst and let her know she is forgiven for even thinking that she needed to be. Give you air without pressure. Bestow just enough wind for you to float upon without tossing you about in my storm. Watch you heal every ear I have severed for you, and maybe learn to use mine. I would release you from my net, save you from suffocating in my bell jar. I would break the very glass I had you pinned down behind, and if I never saw your face again, at least you got what you wanted for once. I miss you. There is an empty space in my ace's place, and now nothing seems to make fish. And even if we weren't alone, I would sing a song for you, and I promise you, I would sound horrible, but it would be okay. Because I'd be no bigger a fool than I've been for even trying to think that I could bottle divinity. It'd be easier to live without you if you did not live within me, but if need be, what we love, we set free. This poem is grateful for your song. I have learned the words of enlightenment, words of conviction are not necessary for those that don't need to speak them. The true enlightenment comes from not capturing the sun, but being allowed in its light. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's funny, Tom. It's funny because I had like the oddest case of writer's block for the past few years, and Tom, it's hilarious because I call him my long lost crazy Australian uncle. He's like anybody has that uncle or that older family member that your parents really wish you didn't hang around with, but they know you love
Sounds
them,
like Tom.
so they don't want to discourage it. They just hope too much of it doesn't rub off. For me, that's Tom the World Poet, and a lot of it pretty much rubbed off, so it's pretty much too late. But no, it's funny because I have a lot of my poems memorized, and because I haven't written anything in so long, pretty much so does Tom. He will sit in the back of the room, and I will hear him mouth out the words, and that's your family member's way of saying, write some new stuff. But you need that. You need that encouragement. Like, while I've memorized my new poems, and I've memorized some of my poems, and I appreciate that. At the end of the day, I've made the excuse rather than the reason to sit down and write more, to improv more, like he and a lot of other poets do. And it's just something you have to make time for. Let me do another poem real quick. Ask me to speak, because a noble heart will never just force itself forward. And besides, I love it when you ask me anyway. Ask me to speak, because even though you can't seem to find the right words, great minds think alike, and I am never in short supply. Ask me to speak, because there's nothing like the connection we create when we just conversate. And while others act like it's never the right time of the week to speak, I can and will do so happily. And if you agree we have a problem with apathy, clap with me. See, even though change would make so much sense, we seem to think it takes too much to even give a care. I mean, now it's harder to love, but easier to hate. Easier to destroy than it is to create, where we could all take some responsibility, kind of master our destiny. You tend to give into the wind and call it fate. And when it all falls apart, when it all falls down, you want to argue after the fact. You'd rather pontificate. When all we needed to do then, like all we need to do right now, is eliminate the hate, kill the debate, and just resonate. Ask me to speak. Because not enough of us say something, and too much of nothing gets said. And some of us will never say anything, and it's too late to hear them because they're dead. Ask me to speak, and I will tell you that as long as you're saying something, no one can tell you talk too much. And when they ask you your opinion, do no less than fill their cup. And when they accuse you of running your mouth, you tell them, catch up. Ask me to speak, because I know you want to. And a lot of us ought to, but some of us were raised not to by parents or people who will rear or breed you in fear and either don't care or don't realize what they taught you. And I've not lived your life. I'm not you, but if you're here, you got through because you fought through. When you feel like the stress has just got you, get it off your chest. And when you can't find the words, I'll just spot you. I mean, I don't know you to lay a hand on you, but I want to touch you. I need to reach you. In truth, my words may never mean anything, but I want you to know that I bleed for you. I will slit my soul and pour it on the paper and read to you because I need for you to understand. But you can't afford to keep it stored, to ignore what I have employed, and I should not have to make the demand.
Beautiful. Thank you.
There's one more, but not before I announce that I believe we have a very special belated birthday girl in the building. If it has been your birthday if your birthday has passed in the past, if your birthday has happened in the past 7 days, and you are wearing purple and you have wings on your back, could you please stand up? Oh, we just a young lady here. Everybody say happy birthday.
Happy birthday, TJ.
1, 2, 3. Happy birthday to you. Happy you do that? How do you do that? I grew up in Killeen. I'm what they call an ex-brat because it's a military town. And I grew up writing poetry there, and I was part of the first poetry troupe in Killeen. And they all had their work memorized, and I, in fact, did not. I was what they referred to as a page poet. And a few years, one day, like years later, I was trying to get a poem memorized because they were just shining me up. And it was like, hey, it'd be nice if you didn't need the paper, Mr. Turn the Wheels, blah, blah, and I'm like, whatever. So I'm sitting there really trying to memorize it, and I get frustrated, and you know, you have those conversations with yourself. I'm like, I can't do it, so you can't do what? I can't memorize this poem. You can't memorize the poem. I can't memorize the poem. You can't memorize the poem on a piece of paper. I can't memorize the poem on a piece of paper. You can't memorize the poem that you wrote. No, I can't memorize this poem. You can't remember this poem that came from outside of your head and onto the piece of paper. I can't remember this poem that came from outside my head and onto this. Oh. And I put, you know, we have these mental blocks we set up for ourselves. Yeah. And I put two and two together, and I just had to calm down and relax, because you think that thing that you memorized, deep down, you think the poem you're trying to memorize is somebody else's work on a subconscious level. You can't really acknowledge that you wrote it. So as soon as you kind of acknowledge it, get it out there, and kind of tear down that bridge, it kind of makes it easier to take the words out and make it second nature. Because there are so many things that a lot of us do that just come without you even knowing. You know what I mean? Like, for example, there's a very good friend of mine that I've known for a couple of years. I don't know if any of you know her. She goes by the name of Susan Summers. She's a bit of a character. She's a bit of a character. Yeah. And I tell you, if there's anything you know about Susan Summers, is that if it is on her mind and in her heart, there is nothing that is ever going to stop this woman. And when I say woman, despite you look at her up here on stage when she was reading and everything. When she was standing, she was nervous as I don't know what, but she still had poise. She still had grace. And I grew up around a lot of females as a child. And one thing I noticed about being a woman is it's something that's very, very involuntary. Lady is a woman's part-time job. Mm-hmm. A woman is who she is all the time, and she doesn't need to practice. It's who she is regardless. There's no mental block. You just wake up and it's on. You're just that for the rest of the day. And you look at memorization as the same thing. If it's what you wrote, it's right there. You relax. I tell people it's never about what you can't do, it's what you can't do yet. Is what I say. So I'm gonna go ahead and do one more poem.
That was a point, by the way.
I get accused of that all the time. I keep saying that I can't write anything, and I'll say something like whatever the heck I just said. Face center. And people will be like, you just said a poem. I'm like, no, that wasn't a poem. Yes, it was. I'm like, okay. Okay, so I'm gonna do a poem real quick. Let me see. Trying to see if I can remember. No, definitely can't remember that one. I can't. It's been years since I've even read that one. Let me see.
Do the Robert Frost you did.
Oh, wait, Robert Frost.
Yeah, it's winter coming.
I don't.
Winter's coming.
I thought I had that one in my head too. I literally, as soon as you said Robert Frost, I tried to
Whose
recall.
woods these are.
Yes.
You did it at the. You just did it 2 weeks ago.
Whose woods these are, I do not know.
That's my
His
favorite.
house is in the village.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so I'll tell you what. Who really loves that poem?
That's good.
Okay, so I'll start it off. Raise your hand one more time. Okay, so bam. I'll start it off and then I'll point to somebody. we have this. So this is what I'm gonna go and do. We have this thing.
Once you start, you'll know it.
Exactly. So we have this thing we do at one of the readings I go to, Neo Soul. Every once in a while we do this thing called poetry tag, where certain poets will stand around the room in certain positions. We'll pick 5 or 6 people ahead of time. They'll stand in different parts of the room, and one poet will start doing about 20 or 30 seconds of his or her poem, whether it's the beginning, middle, or the end. The next thing you know, they'll suddenly point to the other person who the crowd isn't aware of. They don't know who these 5 people are. They'll point to that person. That person will do 4 or 5, 30 seconds, 20, 30 seconds of their poem, and then they'll go boom. So we're gonna do poetry tag with Robert Frost. You ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Whose woods these are, I do not know.
His house is in the village, though.
You will not see me stopping here to watch his woods fill up with snow.
Please don't put me, please don't put me. Shut.
Is this my little horse?
Sometimes with you. What's that one?
My little horse must think it queer.
There you go. To stop without a village near.
Darkest evening of the year.
It's,
Gives his harness bell the shake to ask if there's been some mistake. We got it all messed up.
Yes, we did.
Yeah.
We'll come back to this later.
The woods are silent, dark and deep.
But I have
promises to keep,
and
miles to go before I sleep.
and
miles to go before I sleep.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I heard you do it beautifully.
I want to get back down. I want to practice.
Let's give ourselves a scary hand on it.
Yay!
I do love that poem, and I will memorize it someday. All right, well, thank you. Our next guest is the indubitable, whatever that word means, John Barry. John.
John Barry. Yellowberry.
I cannot remember how long ago it's been since I first met John Barry. All I know is that he and Herman had started the Oracles of Delphi. So you can talk about that. And I also know that he was one of the founding members of the Austin International Poetry Festival. And John, would you say that you're a classicist?
Yeah, I suppose so.
Yeah, welcome to Classicist.
The oldest poem I still do is the first one that I wrote in Austin, Texas. It was in the summer of 1958. And I was making up courses so I could change major as an undergraduate without losing a year. And I met a student librarian who was the first woman that I ever wanted to marry, but I couldn't figure out how to feed her. So we married 2 or 3 other people each instead. But I wrote a Cavalier poem for her. You know, Cavalier poets were on the side of Charles I in the English Civil War, and they wrote things like to Lucasta on going to war, and to Althea from prison, and to the virgins to make much of time. And whatever name they called the person their poem was addressed to was not their name. And I even doubt that the virgins were virgin, because that was a day and age in which that was not appreciated. But To Amanda on First Meeting is my Cavalier poem that I wrote to the girl named Doris. And I can't remember the damn first word of it. Oh well. I'll do it. I'll come around again. Wilfred Owen is the Welsh best Welsh poet of the 20th century and best war poet ever. And his poem is Dulcidet Decorum Est, which comes from a line by the famous Roman poet and toady of the Augustan age, Horace. It was translated into English. It is sweet, dulcet, and proper decorum to die for one's fatherland. Bent double like old beggars under sacks, knock-kneed, coughing like hags, we cursed through sludge. To long haunting flares we turned our backs, and towards our distant rest began to trudge. Men marched asleep, many had lost their boots, but limped on bloodshod, blind with fatigue, deaf even to the hoots of tired, outstripped gas shells that dropped behind. Gas, gas, quick boys, an ecstasy of fumbling, fitting the clumsy helmets just in time. But someone still was yelling out and stumbling and foundering like a man in fire or lime. Dim through the misty panes and thick green light was under a green sea. I saw him drowning. In all my dreams before my helpless sight, he plunges at me, guttering, choking, drowning. My friend, if you too could pace behind the wagon that we flung him in. Sorry, if in some smothering dreams you too could pace behind the wagon that we flung him in, and see the white eyes writhing in his face, his hanging face like a devil sick of sin. My friend, you would not tell with such high zest to children ardent for some desperate glory, the old lie, docet et decorum est pro patria mori. I wrote one children's poem in my life for a contest and it won it. It's about the coming of my volunteer cat. And it's titled My Cat. My cat came in when I opened the door. I swear I'd never seen him before. I just opened the door and then he came. And the strange thing is, I knew his name, and he knew where the food dish sat. He ate, looked up, said, I'm your cat, and you're my host as long as I wish. But you'd better feed me chicken and fish, or like I came, I'll go out that door and you'll never see me anymore. So chicken and fish was what he ate, with beef and turkey on his plate. For months till he jumped out into the night and didn't return with the morning light. Well, he didn't come back at all that day, and the next day too he stayed away. I feared he'd gone through some other door that would never open anymore. In my heart I said goodbye, but gave the searching one more try. So Tuesday morning I went to the pound, there if anywhere he'd be found. And there he was, like a thief in jail, but he had me to go his bail. I brought him out and took him home, but I opened the door when he wants to roam. As long as he stays, it'll be my boast that he's my cat and I'm his host.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Still can't remember my Amanda poem from 58. But my friend Marvin Kimbrough, she died on Labor Day of the year 2010 at 1 a.m. And the day before she died, when she was in her final coma, I went and for 4 hours I visited her and read poetry to her. And she laughed at my cat poem. I never believed that people in coma could actually hear until that day. I'll have to quote the Bible here, because these are red letters from my red letter New Testament and are attributed to Jesus. And I wish to get them right. Even the poorest children have their angels, and their antics in heaven make God smile. My little black ceramic angel sat for 30 years, dangling his feet off the edge of his cloud, playing his banjo, shining in the smile of God. But when I looked for him Labor Day, his cloud was empty. I think he went home, knowing I would never forget there were black angels. I know there are black angels. We know that now there is a new one. I can see her. She is smiling brighter than the golden street she wanders. She's left her heart somewhere, but not her voice, which now she can never lose. She's singing and saying new poetry. She's praising the things we forget to praise: ham and grits, yellow hats and cats and cockroaches and death. And I know God is smiling.
Wow.
That red letter New Testament I got for memorizing enough Bible verses and Presbyterian Catechism in grade school to win it. Since then, I've forgotten as much Bible as I can. And I haven't seen the red letter New Testament since I wrote the poem for Marvin Kimbrough, Maker, that I just did. But here's something else, more or less biblical, that I did this weekend. And I'll have to read it because, as I say, I've forgotten as much Bible as I possibly can. I just call it an older song. The lady is my shepherdess, she shares her abundance. She leads me to green meadows. She rests me by running waters. She gives my soul again. In her name I follow good. Though she kill me, yet will I love her. Over and over she bursts me. I feast before your enemies, your oil marking my forehead. Your wine flows from my cup to your sacred earth. Surely joy and love will always return to me, and I will turn on your wheel forever. The wife of my translator and poet friend, Fritz Henze, died on the 1st of November in 1997. And this is for his wife, Lila Henze. The title is Cordelia, who is King Lear's daughter. And I'll have to read that one too. She was happy, therefore beautiful. She was wise, therefore tranquil. Hearing her in her garden, the plants curved towards the gently flowing liquidity of her voice. We will remember her, the day of all souls. Death, you took those who helped us see ourselves as braver, bolder, better than we are. You took those who loved the unlovely just because so few do. You took those who helped us love earth, sea, and air of our planet. Greedy death, you have taken so many of the great. Could you not spare us one small, lovely woman? We will remember her, the day of all souls.
Thank you, John.
Robert Griffin, Mother Teresa, and John Denver figure in that poem.
I don't see Herman Nelson here. He's on our list.
I spoke to him 5 minutes before I left home.
And what did he say?
Well, his daughter said that he was feeling poorly and wouldn't make it.
Okay. Well, we send Herman all of our good wishes for his health. I know he'll be back. I think he's on the program for December. So that'll be great, huh? So our next poet is PJ the Rainbow Poet. PJ?
PJ.
there, and all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to take a few quick seconds to interview her about the meaning of life.
Can you entertain while I
Oh,
prepare?
yeah, and she's preparing, so even better. I guess now is a good time for a quick poem, right? That's
Yeah.
I'm stalling. But of course, nothing comes to mind in these moments, so I'll just have to do Ogden Nash instead. And for all of you who've already heard it, I just apologize because you don't have to do the same one over and over about 1 million times. It's called The Termite. A hungry termite knocked on wood and tasted it and found it good. And that is why your cousin May fell through the parlor floor today. PJ? Oh my gosh, you know what? I'm interviewing you after the performance. Look at this. Woo.
Hello,
Hello.
I am PJ the Rainbow Poet. My birthday is November 7th. Thank you for the love. So this is improv, this is improv, something I'm not very good at, so we're gonna give it a shot. What I have is some inspiration from Steps Towards Inner Peace. And I'll read a piece of that, and then play a little music, and then see what I come up with, if anything. And it's going to be hard to wear the glasses and the mask at the same time. I don't know how to do this. Right. Pardon me, I'm getting there. So I was watching, and before it was time to get dressed and leave the house, I was watching a beautiful program on my favorite television station called PBS, and it had the most beautiful pictures of the world. Kept flowing and flowing and flowing, and I felt like, oh, I wish I was there. Okay, I'm pretending I'm there. I need to relax, and I'm relaxing, and the music was beautiful, and the words were beautiful, and the poems were beautiful, and I was beautiful, and my kitties were beautiful, and everything else. And so I want to share some beauty with you this evening. And I'm dressed up because I love to dress up. I'm in my second childhood and I'm having fun so long as it's legal. Okay. So this is going to, the beautiful pictures and poetry in the nature was reminding me of spiritual journeys and spiritual growth. And I'm in the process of reading this Peace Pilgrim book, and this person is Peace Pilgrim who changed their name to Peace Pilgrim. The author is called Peace Pilgrim, and it's not religious, it's just this person and God, and I want to remind you especially that I use the word God to encompass all inclusiveness of our Father, Mother, God, Spirit, Holy Spirit, Life Spirit, Creator, etc., 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 with Goddess and with respect to all. Use the word God. And I will start with this little part here. This part is in a question and answer form. Will there always be pain in one's becoming more beautiful? You know, as we grow in spirit, we grow more beautiful. There will be, there will be pain in your spiritual growth until you will to do God's will, and no longer need to be pushed into it. When you are out of harmony with God's will, problems come. Their purpose is to push you into harmony. Helps us grow. If you would willingly do God's will, you would avoid the problems. Now we all know that already, don't we? That's why we're here and gathered in like minds. Question, will I ever come into a state of feeling at rest with no more need to become. I know that I've asked myself that because I get tired and weary from the problems. Even though I think I've grown, they come again. And I say, well, I thought I dealt with that. And there's nothing new this time. How many times do I gotta practice this, doggone it? And so I meditate on that and reflect. And I go to my happy place as I fly in nature along the rivers, along the pathways. I close my eyes and I see the trees. And I breathe and I smell the birds. And I listen for the silence. And I see the fish. I'm walking along the path. And I'm walking along the path. So I listen and I hear the trees. I look and I feel the fish. The birds talk to me and I understand them. But I'm not listening. I'm looking for God. God has already found me. Where is my peace? It is here. It's within me. I just need to accept it and hold it. I like this next little passage. After you have found inner peace, spiritual growth takes place harmoniously because you, now governed by the higher self, will to do God's will and do not need to be pushed into it. Back to the question and answer. Will I ever come into a state of feeling at rest with no more need to become? Answer. When you have found inner peace, you have no more feeling of the need to become. You are content to be. I have found this to be so for myself as well, which includes following your divine guidance, which is from within. However, you keep on growing, but harmoniously. Now, that is where I would like to be. I find myself there occasionally, sometimes more often, and sometimes I come back to the realities of earth and I get sad again. But then I need to take myself on a meditative journey. And I need to return to the spirit and the knowledge and the peace within. The peace within can come from without in the wind, in the bird song, in the trees, in the air. to share it at every opportunity. Peace from me, peace to you. Thank you.
Thank you.
That was no fun. You asked me to improvise again.
It was good, though. It was very good.
I understand that you're a pixie, is that correct?
Today, yes.
She's a pixie, so let's have a hand for PJ.
The pixie.
All right, our next performer this evening is Scott Banya. Scott?
Hey, Scott.
Am I saying your name right, Scott? Scott Banya. And I just met Scott this evening, so my wealth of information about you, Scott, is that you are a multi-talented artist, father, and awesome, improviser guy, and that's me improvising. What do you think?
Yeah.
So I hand to you.
I need space to move around, so tell me
Wow.
if that's okay. Because if you're going to gesticulate, you might as well gesticulate loud.
Are we in the splash zone?
I had a conversation with Tom about this particular this event, and he said he added improv because originally it was memorizing. He added improv, and then I came back to him and said I was sitting there last week going, man, the guy didn't give me a theme. God, darn it! Now I don't have anything to focus on. Oh, wait a second. He gave me a mode. And so I mentioned that to him. He said, yeah, you want to just all sort of step out. And so since I do everything improv, I thought, well, maybe I should sort of do something. Since I always go to the grocery store, I don't know about y'all, but whenever I'm sitting at home and going, man, I really want a gallon of milk, I don't go unless I can also get something else. Sometimes I have to get two things. I never make a trip for one thing. It's always for two things, at least. So I'm going to try to do improv and memorized. And it would sort of be like this. Oh, also, you'll notice one difference is I normally play first, and so I'm hoping to speak and then I can play, and we'll see. But that'll be out of the box. And the simplest way to do this is just tell it like it is. It was mentioned earlier, when did we come into this fascination with language and the building of images and ideas? And I don't remember exactly, but I do know senior year in high school, we were asked to do a dramatic monologue. And I threw myself into it. I mean, I really did. But I wrote something very, very dark. And if you continue the evolution, and hopefully I'll have enough time to maybe speed this up a little bit, to continue the evolution until what y'all see before you now. At the time, as an 18-year-old in high school, I wrote roughly 10 or 15 pages about somebody who had committed suicide and was laying on their bathroom floor with their wrist open and were bleeding all over the place. And the protagonist, in his last few moments of breath on earth, God comes to him and says, this is not a way out. And he gets very flabbergasted, the protagonist does, and says, you weren't supposed to come here. I meant for it to end, period. I meant it out, gone. And so a dialogue ensues between what's supposed to be a dialogue in his head ensues, asking, why do I have to go on? Why do I have to continue? I didn't want to continue. And in this heated moment, his mom comes through the door and holds him in his arms as he's bleeding on her. He's dying. And if y'all look at my experience and what I've been talking about over the last 3 or 4 years y'all know me, it's all been a deep-seated need to try to convince myself that there is a reason and a purpose for me being here. Tom mentioned something the other day when I wrote him back a very heated email about something he said to me. I know you're out there. He said in 4 Tomaic lines, focus on the solution. And I haven't been on antidepressants for about 4 or 5 days now, so I'm in not the most uplifted mood, hence the poem also that went out last night. So I let it out. I mean, I spent the better part of 2,000 words telling him, look, Tom, I've been doing the best I can through this, trying to get through this just like everybody else. And he wrote back and said something to the effect, if it's good to see your true self and get over all this love and peace fluff.
Oh.
And it called into question my own intentions. I am overjoyed, and that doesn't begin to express it. I hear, or somewhere in the past, I heard, oh, it was at APF. There were leaves outside that place when I was smoking a cigarette, and they were talking to one another. And I was listening in, and they didn't mind. Crickets, constantly. The only problem with the crickets is if I listen and it's me listening, they shut up. Everywhere I go, I come to these things and listen to y'all because y'all are doing what you love and it's getting it out there and it's being spontaneous. And this is all basically the same story. This is the memorized part that I've been telling for 30 years. There is a reason. If nothing else, I'm trying to convince myself of that. Then I see y'all. And if there's any reason, it's because y'all are there. And we're all in it together. And it is hard. And I lay down and I say, I didn't say it. I don't want to be here. And then I do. I continue on because I get to come to these things and I get to share and I get to say, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I saw somebody at Wake the Dead a month ago, and I mentioned this in an appointment. It's well worth saying again. He saw me speak, and he said, because of Scott speaking, I'm going to get up and do improv. And he did it. And what he came back to within minutes was saying thank you. So apparently what we have in somewhere, this thing, sorry about the goo, is gratitude. That we're here, that I was able to write a poem, though it was difficult 30 years ago. And I've since been able to write poems that are much more optimistic and enlightening and possibly even inspiring to people. I think I'll play some music. Thank you. Oh, I'm going to play a guitar piece, okay? Can I play a guitar piece?
Absolutely. I meant to mention that Scott actually ran guns to Ethiopia.
Oh, yeah.
And I meant to mention that. That he was actually the 6th member of the Rolling Stones.
I'm starting to look a lot like Keith, so
yeah, so I just want to mention that before you started what you're about to start.
He has 24 books of poetry on
30.
30 books.
Yeah.
What is that?
But they're gone, and I've
Barnes and
sold.
Nobles.
I've had it. It's on iTunes and on Nook and
Nook, yeah.
If you just, it's really nice. I love having a weird name. You can put Scott Banion in quotes and poof, all my stuff comes up.
Oh, cool.
I'm so glad I'm not John Smith. I never know where this is going to go either, but we'll see. It came to me somewhere recently. I made a comment that you can't, if poetry's not beautiful, then it's not poetry. calls into question things like the Raven or John's poem. That's not right. Let's do it this way. It calls into question things like, is poetry nothing more than being honest and being true? I've practiced poetry enough as a lifestyle for the last 30 years to begin to see that my life is analogous to everybody else's. So they say things like, oh man, I like the rain. You are like the rain. I like trees. You are a tree. And it all comes around to the same thing, where the more you live your life as a poet, the more poetic your life becomes. It's fabulous. And it's pretty soon, where does it ever stop? And so I've created tools for myself that I can sit down and my poetry's done in 15 minutes, and then I blast it off. That's the fun part. Apparently I'm addicted to publishing, which is why I publish Tom. And the more we get in the synergistic, and this is the main point of my theme tonight at least, is the more y'all trust me, the more I trust y'all. And apparently trust is synergistic. It builds and it gets stronger and bigger and bolder and more fascinating and more exciting and more grand. And it smacks of nothing more than a long time ago, somebody never should have separated that word from truth. Trust is truth. The more you trust the people around you, and you trust your world, and you give over to it entirely, the more successful you seem. Success doesn't have to do with the fact I got no job and no money and my parents are telling me to get a job. Success has to do with the fact that I love myself and I love all the people around me.
Yeah.
What greater word could there be? I adore my world, and I'm thrilled that y'all give me the time to actually say it, because y'all are the part that makes it so fabulous. You know, if there weren't ears to be heard, maybe those leaves wouldn't sing as much. Maybe the crickets would just shut up. Is it us? Are we the sound in the forest when a tree falls? We're that thing that hears. We're that thing that is attentive, even, and the part that doesn't want to be attentive isn't us. It's inertia. It's gravity. It's friction. It's a natural law, but it's not our consciousness. It's not the part that adores life. It's just a figment. A friend of mine a long time ago in high school wrote a poem called, he said you were a pigment of my imagination. He said you were a pigment of my imagination. And I loved that. And I just came off and watched Pollock last night. That was a head rush. And so let's paint beautiful pictures. And as the night goes on tonight, we're going to see more and more people do stuff. And the one thing I wanted to start out with that I know maybe I'm getting back to in the end is, a long time ago when I started at Cafe Caffeine improvising, it was because I started editing myself while I was speaking. And yet I know what I want to say. I want to say that y'all are great. Y'all are the best community this planet has, as far as I can tell. And I can tell that because I want it for every other community on the world. I want everybody to have as much fun as we do at poetry readings, and get out to them and speak their mind, and be thrilled to the fact that we've all got these wonderful, beautiful voices. Thanks. Peace.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Scott. He warned me that he would be improvising based on the energy that we have here this evening. And I found that to be an incredibly courageous thing to do. And I love the idea that trust is truth. That was a wonderful gem to hear there. So thank you very much, Scott. Our next guest is Connie Williams. Is Connie Williams here?
I haven't seen her.
I don't know if she's still in town.
If she shows up, will someone just jump up and down and let me know? That'd be swell. Okay then, so let's then have a warm hand for Linda Marie. You're on the list. You're on the list. Do you know anything, or would you like to just get up and, sing a song?
Improvise.
Anyway, I think you should just get up here to be interviewed. So,
Get her talking about why she loves poetry.
Why do you love poetry?
Oh, it feels like dance.
Ah, here we go.
Yeah, it feels like dance. Yeah.
And you are not only a talented poet, but you also encourage other poets. You host the venue at New World, and you give through your art, but you also give to others by encouraging their art. How long have you been doing that? A while, maybe.
Since I moved to Austin 3 years ago.
And where did you move from?
Well, we were in Portland, and then we were in Hawaii, and then we were in Santa Fe, and it just
all good
keeps
places, but
going
Austin's the
around
best.
and around.
When I first met her, Linda Moretti was reciting her own poetry at an art gallery. That she was
I didn't know what I was doing, though.
So you were known to recite. That's good.
Yes. But it's kind of like, I'm a painter, right? But I was writing secretly.
Would you say that to the microphone, please? You were writing?
I thought of myself, I'm a painter. I do drawing, painting, and sculpture. But I was secretly writing about things also. But I never took it seriously until I moved to Austin. Because so many word wizards here. And I've written 400 poems since I got here.
Wow.
Wow.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's contagious, you know. I met Elsie and it was contagious. So.
All right, word wizard dancer girl.
Well, this is scary. I don't know.
I know,
I'll
it's pretty
remember
crazy,
it.
right?
I'll try to
All right.
remember it.
All right.
Okay, where shall I?
Yes, take the yellow microphone and let's have a warm hand for what's about to happen.
Hey.
Through the garden of experience, she became the diaphanous knower of her own truth. Wearing a gossamer gown and a crown of crystals, she taps the elixir of life with her wand of fire and frankincense, and releases white intention, red desire to know, and the wisdom folly of the black unknown. Blood mysteries dance in the street of the etheric final direction of everywhere and nowhere, creating change and sameness. The cup and the mirror are the form behind the form. A pentacle body and a sword, a blade, glimmer in the dark with the knowledge to create and destroy. And the light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it.
Wow! Wow! Never in a million years could I do that on the spot and be that awesome. That was cool. Thank you. We have one more guest this evening before the break, and that is Larry Alexander. Is he here?
Yes, he is, right there.
Larry, I recognize you because I've never met you before.
Let us all get to know Mr. Alexander.
Welcome, Larry.
Make sure he's on a mic.
So, Larry, I've never met you before. You're a writer.
Allegedly.
A poet.
Allegedly.
A singer of spiritual joy.
Not quite a singer.
All right. Well, he's one of those somewhere, so have a warm hand for him.
Thank you all. I am actually one of the original co-founders of this event.
Oh, wow.
Many years ago.
Oh, wow. Well, thank you for that. Thank you. Thank you.
Even though I don't see Tom tonight, I simply want to thank him for carrying on.
You see me tonight. I saw you then.
Yes, indeed. Many years ago. Well, I'm just passing through tonight, and I wanted to stop in, made a special effort to stop in and introduce my new book. It's called 60 Ways to Lament, Cherish, and Glorify a Lost Princess. It's not quite a book of poetry, nor is it a novel or short story, or actually doesn't fit into any of the
So it
Creative.
fits nicely in, yeah.
I did put an author's note that sort of mentioned that if we could get beyond the, how do you say, academia, that only a few of us unrecognized poets might have interest in this, so maybe it'll catch on with your help. I'm going to share just one or two poems from this book. Did anyone out there ever have a missed encounter? Missed romantic encounter?
I didn't.
Yeah.
Okay.
Missed romantic.
Missed romantic encounter, misconnection. Yeah, this is about a misconnection that this book is about a misconnection that happened at the Texas Renaissance Festival near Magnolia, Texas, many years ago. It was such a compelling event that I've been sort of searching for the object of that missed encounter for 35 years. So this book is as much a marketing effort as anything else to get the word out. We're doing an actual live internet search and hashtag campaign. You can go to 60ways.com and learn all about it. And you can friend me on Facebook and share with your friends. I'm going to share the first poem here, and I really admire, where's our last poet? There you are. I admire everyone like Tom and you who can recite your work from memory. I'm compelled to read. I've written perhaps thousands, but I only remember two. I don't know why those two. They simply won't go away. But I haven't been able to put anything else in there, anything else that I could remember to recite. So I'm going to do this. It's called Wonder and Woe, and I think it's sort of self-explanatory. And again, I don't have the glasses, but I'm going to do my best here. She came and went in the twinkling of an eye. Yet during that moment we shared every passion that human sentiments can exemplify. My heart found joy, my being denied a physical path, joined her in spiritual communion. My soul enlivened, focused at once on a means of reunion, and to liberate in that mystical rendezvous the splendor which love can personify. And to gain a tangible outcome in place of fantasy and illusion. My resolve has endured quandary, frustration, failure, then cast into an abyss far beyond oblivion. It is sad. No avenue remains but to recall the encounter, to grieve vehemently and cry. She came and went, and wonder and woe fell unto me, all in the twinkling of an eye. Thank you, you're very kind. I will thumb through here very briefly, and I apologize that I didn't have them in order, but there is, this is called I Froze. Without my glasses, it's rather difficult to get the right position here on my I Froze.
first sight, I felt adoration be lit, passion ignite. Felt by vulnerability exposed, heard violins faintly and oboes. Endured fear briefly, and I acknowledge a breathtaking flight. But moreover, as I froze, and a fate destiny rarely bestows, I saw her love light at first sight.
Wow.
Just let me skip over to the back. I'll do perhaps two more, and then we'll move on. I have a particular poem in mind. Why don't I do that? You know, it does help actually. Here's one I'll do, and then one last one. It's called Isolated. I see only my point of view, and the result appears selfish, it's true. My loss, my sadness, my sorrow, how I lament, but I grieve twice as much thinking of you, broken-hearted. And love, I regret the prospect, just I don't know how to express your passion, determine if you mourn, and to what extent. It's the scourge and the blight and the sad reality of being isolated. I cannot express your approval or verify categorically your anguish. I see wretchedness only from my point of view. One more, and then we'll give it up in favor of cake. No, not that one. Let's see. You know, all of these, as you all know, being poets, are like my little kids here, and I don't want to deny any of them, but at the same time,
Right.
there's just one or two that are more appropriate to share, and others it's sort of about memory, you know, recall, actually about recall, and just give me a moment. I think I can thumb through real quickly and find what I'd like to find. It's right in this area. You know, this happened at the Renaissance Festival, and the whole theme was actually Old English and about the king and the queen and their daughter. This young lady was dressed as a princess, and hence the princess search. Well, I'm not having much luck with that, so I'll just pick a poem and share it. Okay, let's do this one. It's called I Grieve and Recite. Where are you tonight? God, I wonder in delight in musing, though sad, the quest has sustained me over many a season. I conjecture conjecture gives being a reason, a purpose, joy, equilibrium, meaning to sight. I surmise, presume, postulate, marvel, and stare into space, and will long for your embrace.
carrying on this wonderful
Yeah.
event. And I didn't notice where I got these from.
It came from the Pixie in the back.
From the Pixie. Thank you, Pixie. Appreciate it.
Let's have a hand for Larry and for all of the performances this evening. And I'd like to just say thank you to Larry and the Baha'i Center for making Expressions possible.
Yes.
It's a great venue. You open your sanctuary to the community and allow all people of goodwill to come and express themselves. And I think it's truly wonderful. We're going to take a 22-minute break, and when we come back, it's round robin. So Larry, if you find your poem, you can do it then. Everybody else who couldn't remember a poem, come back, and we'll do round robin. All right, thanks very much.
You're still working on that Robert Frost poem, aren't
You
you?
already know it. You already know it.
I could hear the jingle bells on the horse.
I was gonna surprise y'all, and I was like, she's not even gonna see it coming. Like, nobody's gonna see it coming. And as soon as she said it, I was
It
like,
started snowing, I saw
dang
it.
dang dang
I was
dang
on
it.
to you. He's on his phone.
Let me see here. Oh, it's not. Oh.
So how much more time do we have here?
I think about.
I think we're here till 10.
Yeah, we're here
So
till
we have
about 10.
another 35 and a half minutes at least.
Yeah. So I'm going to attempt to do one of my favorite poets some justice. Stopping by Woods on a Snowy Evening
All right.
by Robert Frost. Whose woods these are, I think I know. His house is in the village though. He will not stop to see me here to watch his woods fill up with snow. My horse must think it a little queer to stop without a farmhouse near. Between the woods and the frozen lake, the darkest evening of the year. He gives his harness belts a shake to ask if there is some mistake. The only other sounds the sweep of easy wind and downy flake. These woods are lovely, dark and deep, but I have promises to keep, and miles to go before I sleep, and miles to go before I sleep.
Yeah.
All right, you have cats and kittens. Here's how it's gonna go. Us being in the hip pocket like we are, this is what we're gonna go ahead and do. As you know, house rules. This is round robin. We're basically gonna get up here, everybody do a poem. There will be no list. Push on. So as I exit, nature as well as the stage abhors a vacuum.
That's right.
Do as you may.
Wow.
There you go.
Ralph, go Ralph. Go Ralph.
Ralph, Rafe, Ralph.
Give it up for Ralph, ladies and gentlemen.
Boy, I am so jealous of all of you that can remember your poems. I mean, I can't find my own bottom when I'm up here. Elaine suggested I read Quantum Heart. And if you've heard it before, I apologize, but there's an epigraph? At the quantum level, nothing exists separately. Everything is interconnected in a web of life that is seamless, universal, and endless. That comes from Dr. LarryA. When my hand touches yours, there's a zone of connection, thin as the wings of dragonflies, where our atoms intermingle, become something different, a third skin, particles composed of you and me, then you in me and me in you. Friends and lovers sense this place when we delight in one another's touch. There's a place where waves join waves, go deep, independent of any carnal touch. It shows itself in the bonds we form with newborns, with sweethearts, with friends, with parents, with righteous men and women, with the ones who made my soup and bread tonight, the youth who brought it to my table. There's a form that's neither particle nor wave, where consciousness meets consciousness, our bodies inconsequential, like clouds joining other clouds, or rivers disappearing into ocean. Our souls returning to the Tao. This is the most intimate of joining, where our spirits join, become as one with each other and the source. Thank you.
Oh, no, go up there, John.
All right.
You're too fast for me.
When I remembered the haiku I wrote about the summer of '58, I remembered the poem I wrote then. And the haiku is that dead tree's branches, I, that clump of weeds and all, flowered that summer.
Mm.
The haiku got into a book called Poetry in English because it has a verb with a past tense, which you're not supposed to be able to do it. Okay, to Amanda on first meeting. What bond can time not sever? What thing can him defy? While nothing lasts forever, and even love must die. A play, a tale, a drawing, the loveliest of song, to lack all trace of flowing, must end before too long. The thread of poets spinning, the joy that love can lend. All beauty has beginning, a middle, and an end. But let the end be cheerful, for ending is no harm. By timelessness is fearful, but transience has charm.
Well, I have a couple of announcements to make. Tomorrow at Recycled Reads, 5335 Burnett Road, we are having our open mic, our monthly open mic, 3:30 to 5:30. And I hope to see all of you, or at least some of you there. And there's a big event coming up at Recycled Reads in December. On the weekend of December 13th and 14th, that's Saturday and Sunday, they're going to have a big Yuletide festival. And of course there will be a lot of Christmas things performed, you know, children's choirs and things like that. But we're also hoping to have Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, and other solstice type celebrations that any of you would be interested in performing. The segments will be 45 minutes each, but that's, you know, not necessarily for just one person, for a group of people. And we have 12 hours to fill, noon to 6 both Saturday and Sunday. And you can go both days or one day and just see me or see Mindy Reed at Recycle Reads for that. Also, I'm building my own little venue in my backyard. Yes. It's not for the general public, it's just strictly for friends, and you are all my friends in poetry. And our first one will be November 12th, Wednesday evening, November 12th. And I'm hoping that some people will volunteer to help me set up and take down, but I have been practicing and doing it all myself. But the plan is that anyone who can come at 5 o'clock can come and spread out your blanket and have a picnic in my backyard if you like. Mingle, whatever. 6 o'clock we will have a poetry and music open mic. And at 7 there will be a movie. And yes, and the first movie is called The Fall with Lee Pace. I have movies that maybe no one else has seen, but I think they're gems, and I think you would love this one. It's a beautiful movie. It's about a young man in the 1920s who is a stuntman, and he is injured, and he's staying in this California clinic. And there's also a little girl there, the daughter of migrant workers. And it's kind of a Scheherazade story basically he's telling these tales to trick her into stealing some morphine for him. But having said that, it's really magical because the stories he tells, you see it through her eyes and her imagination. And it is actually filmed all over the world, India and Italy and Namibia, and just gorgeous scenery, which they could have just gotten pictures, but they actually went to these places and did all this stuff. And then on the 19th, I'm going to do it again. This time it's a very dark comedy called In Bruges about dumb criminals in Ireland. They wind up in Bruges.
In Bruges.
Yes, they have some kind of caper that they're pulling off in Bruges. So anyway, and then after that, I'm going to try to go the first and third Wednesdays of every month, but we'll probably have to take a break for the winter. So, but that's the plan so far. Anyway, I'm very proud that they used a joke of mine on a Prairie Home Companion tonight. They have a joke show every year, and they ask people to email in jokes. And about half an hour or 45 minutes after I emailed this joke, I heard Garrison Keillor read it on the air.
Yeah, we did.
Blew my yes.
Yeah. So you get a
yes,
t-shirt.
Linda and Gordon heard it. Yes. No money probably.
You get a t-shirt.
I know. But it was a little parody of, I don't know if you know the old Dean Martin song, I think it was his first big hit, That's Amore. You know, when the moon hits your eye like a big pizza pie, that's amore. Well, mine would refer to skin divers. When you're snorkeling by and an eel bites your thigh, that's amore. So that was the one that Garrison
Louise Nelson of Texas.
I guess I'm going to try to do a Tom or a Scott here, improvising a story. I started to write this down when our Garrison here said that we were doing improvisational or memorized things. So let's see how this works out. You know, I depend on pockets. I have really come to depend on pockets. I keep my cell phone in my left pocket and my keys in my right pocket. And I love my remote control, my car remote control. But the problem is, if you're wearing tight jeans, sometimes you walk around and the remote control goes off. And my new car has a trunk that opens automatically. Press the button. So I was headed out the door the other day, and I was getting in the car and I saw the trunk. I'm okay. Slammed it down, drove halfway down the street, and then I heard. So, oh my God. Because I'm sure that when the trunk opened, it looked like welcoming to my kitty cat, Miss Mocha Cappuccino. And she had to explore it, and I didn't know she was in there. She sounded so pitiful. I said, oh, baby, just wait. I'll go around the block. I'll come back. I'll let you out. And so we finally got back. And I opened the trunk. And she jumped out and ran away and said, But she spoke to me again after that. And I think we're okay now.
Well, I thought to tell a story, but it was going to be too long. That way I didn't have to memorize anything. Just tell the story. And it was going to be ravens and the dark side, and it's set in Alaska. And it was true. And it's a true story besides, but I need a half an hour for it. So here we go. This isn't new, but it is a not so short history of Halloween. Let me try this. For Halloween, so the bean counters say, Americans spend near $6 billion today. on candy, costumes, parties galore, thrill houses by the score, yards full of ghoulish decor, and movies that flood all the theaters with gore. And how, you may ask, quite rightfully so, did a quaint rustic ritual called Samhain of 10 centuries ago become a national orgy of sugar fixation, fantasy obsession, casual necrophilia, cross-dressing mania, and sexual hyperstimulation? Good question. And darned if I can say when old Samhain evolved into All Hallows Eve, although the good church fathers certainly did their best to sweeten the pagan holiday with pious Christian morality into the much more palatable All Saints' Day. And in the New World, the Puritans almost squelched the fun while they made witches out of a lot of unconventional women. To the rescue came those Celts, the Scots, the Irish, the French, even the Welsh. To some degree, the English too, but with reservation. But the Celtic transplants to America never forgot Samhain and lustily embraced Halloween from colonial times to the great Irish migration with jack-o'-lanterns, spirit tales, apples in the rain barrel, costume dances, and bonfires at the midnight hour. Writers and poets all alike have offered their due, giving to the Halloween tradition a chilling literary hue. Washington Irving, Robert Burns, Charles Dickens, and Edgar Allan Poe, Robert Louis Stevenson, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, and Oscar Wilde too. Right up to our times with the shining horror tales of Stephen King. And Hollywood has pulled its wagon with every kind of celluloid dread, from Frankenstein and the Mummy to Texas Chainsaw Murders, and who can forget the immortal Night of the Living Dead. It doesn't seem so long ago when, as a boy of 12 or so, it was such fun to haunt the leaf-strewn streets of an early dark, our faces painted ghastly white or smeared with red in torn bloody sheets or in our father's cast-off clothes. 'Twas such a lark, such inexpensive fun to be a ghost, a goblin, a pirate, or a hobo bum. This Halloween, my daughter tells me she will spend $100 or more on candy to appease the tricksters that will appear from other neighborhoods, not hers, but who arrive at dusk in cars and trucks their parents park along the streets and release the hordes of kids in store-bought guises who roam from house to house and fill their sacks till overflowing with the sweets. So something's lost and something's gained in this strange evolution from Halloween to Halloween from Samhain. As with most other national obsessions and celebrations, we Americans tend to neglect the spiritual in favor of the merely silly and the gustatorial. The Celtic farmer who tended the flame, that distant ean, guiding ancestral spirits to their eternal rest, would not comprehend the mass excess of our flight from stress in the name of an evening's recreation. One thing remains at last, I muse, that links today's Halloween with its far-gone past. No more of the silent other side beyond the veil do we know than did those of 1,000 October's harvest moons ago. Like them, we stand before the grave with doubt and fear. And then we laugh to shake off our fright and light our pumpkin goblins once again to see them grin and chase the shades into the night and welcome in the waning of another year.
Okay, as usual, apologies to people that I've met before, but this is the only poem I have which is suitable for such a night as this. It is called Ill Met by Moonlight. Through a night that seemed eternal, plagued by processes infernal, through the mists of random snatches, memories that went before, vibrant times of gallant sunshine, wine and meals and miles of coastline, shattered by a voice that echoed down the cursed corridor. Go to baggage counter 4. Though the way was dark and dreary, and their limbs were getting weary, crowds set off, a ragged serpent dragged across the polished floor. Already somebody was wailing. Will it ever be plain sailing to recover all the knickknacks bought within that beachfront store? Where is baggage counter 4? Lifts were out, the walkways still, and the air was getting chill, but still the corps pressed on relentless in its quest for counter 4. Some swore, sweeping on like cattle, soft beneath their footsteps rattle. Bugles played a plaintive tune that ended on a minor chord. Counter 3 and nothing more. Moonlight filled the dingy halls, fell grey upon the shuttered walls where many a slice of pizza and McDonald's had been seen before. Someone asked a lone attendant, in his uniform resplendent, where to find this counter 4. He smiled and sent them down once more a corridor they'd seen before. And planes still leave from every gate, some on time and others late, while X-ray booths help capture evil terrorists with bombs in drawers. There's not just terrorists to fear. On quiet moments you might hear footsteps cross a vacant patch of highly polished corridor, searching still for counter 4. You may have recognised the cadence of that poem.
To help us get ready for Thanksgiving, I have a gratitude song. I am grateful, oh so grateful. I feel gratitude welling up within me. For I walk in beauty and I am surrounded by grace and by love. I know thou goest before me, preparing my path. Thou preparest a feast before me, and my cup overflows. I am grateful, oh so grateful. I feel gratitude welling up within me, for I walk in beauty and I am surrounded by grace and by love. I am so grateful.
Friends, we're forced to take off a little bit early, but I wanted to share the poem that I couldn't remember the title. I actually can't do this without a little help from the audience, however. It's called Wanting to Remember. But I need, what is that typical expression that Americans use when parting? Does anyone know that? Can anyone help with that?
See you later.
It's one.
So long, goodbye, goodbye.
Goodbye. That's the term. I'm forced to it even when it's difficult. So I'll do this. It's called Wanting to Remember. I just can't say goodbye or entertain a voice the sad outcry. I await that special greeting you no doubt reserved for me, and personally contemplate one or two or three, and find no impropriety in pursuing my fond endeavor, my darling sweetest spy, in wishing, in hoping, in wanting to remember, embracing my fantasy, or a more focal preoccupation, rehearsing whimsically. Aloha, salute, hola, bonjour, ciao, hello love. I just can't say goodbye.
Oh, nice.
Thank you very much.
Our turn. Yeah, wait for our turn.
You haven't gone yet. Did you want to go? No? Okay.
Okay, Dr. Scott, we're just gonna be our turn, okay?
I'll try to do a Halloween thing. But, you know, my typical spiritual sort of thing, I'll make it through, I'll make it. Take some time with this. Take some time with this. How would you feel if all 8 billion of us were in the room with us now? Shoulder to shoulder, crowded. Add on top of that the further billions that have gone before us. More crowded, more claustrophobic. What is it that's keeping us apart from one another? If someone stands next to me, I mean, because all the time, y'all are here and I feel your chest, I feel your heart, I listen. I listen for that sound of you breathing as you speak. I want to be you. Yeah, I also am not one to say, if given the living dead and all 8 billion of us in the room, I would feel comfortable, so squished and so tight and so claustrophobic. But there's something about each one of us that's separating us from the other. For fun, we can take the pendulum of attention and toss it to Philip, to you, I'll get your name later, and Louise, and let it spin around in our head, let it gyre about like hawks or birds or doves. Let's not walk so lightly or so timidly into a crowded HEB. Let's go bare-chested and wide-armed and say, yes, you putting $400 of groceries, you're me too. Let's go to 7-Eleven and give the one-handed vow. Because there's nothing really that separates behind your eyes from behind my eyes. It's some sort of stipulation that I can't go inside you. We've all made love. We know we can. When we choose to, when we give it over to someone completely, is it that hard to do all the time? Something keeps us from doing it for some Halloween sort of reason. Fear that in your heart is my heart, and my heart is your heart, and everybody else's heart is our heart, and the blood just flows free. Spooky. On the other hand, it's the ideal that every spiritual calling on this planet suggests that there's one ever-present soul that surrounds all of us and adores us. Perhaps it doesn't want us to feel so claustrophobic. Thank you.
Oh no.
Is this still working?
Yes.
Hi, I want y'all to meet Ashlyn. Say hi, Ashlyn.
Hi.
Hi.
Now, the reason I want to introduce Ashlyn is because she was born on a very special day that made me very sad and very happy at the same time. Because she was born on that day, it was my 50th birthday.
Oh.
So we are birthday twins. And I didn't get to see her grandma, Jeannie, or her mom, Sarah, on that day. Do you want to come up with us? And this is her sister, Zephyr. You want to say hi, Zephyr?
Oh.
Good job. So, we wanted to ask Gordon to honor us, and he said yes to play the drum while y'all sing the birthday song, and we can dance to it together.
Okay.
Together. I thank you for it earlier, but we want to do this together. And I appreciate your indulgence. New trip. Thank you. Anytime you're ready, Gordon. Okay, you guys ready?
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday. Happy birthday to you. Yay.
Thank you. She's still there. She's ready for more.
Let's go to Mama. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
From Dylan Thomas. Do not go gentle into that good night. Old age should burn in rage at the close of day. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. Though wise men at their end know the dark is right, because their words had forged no lightning, they do not go into that good night. Good men their last way by, crying how bright their frail deeds might have danced in a green bay. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. Wild men who caught and sang the sun in flight, and learned too late they grieve it on its way. Do not go gentle into that good night. Grave men near death who see with blinding sight, blind eyes could blaze like meteors and be gay. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. And you, my Father, there on the sad height, curse, bless me now with your fierce tears, I pray. Do not go gentle into that good night. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. So I think that is going to conclude. Another fine evening of what has been for many years, in my opinion, a staple of the Austin poetry scene itself. One of our foundation venues itself. Please give it up for yourselves for attending this special moment. And every time you choose to come after that, shout out to Tom, the world poet, aka Tom Unlimited, aka Tom Anonymous, aka Gluten Free Tom, aka,
Spirit Tom.
Spirit Tom,
Tom, etc.
you know, E
Moon
Tom,
Tom.
and E Tom,
Tom the Piper's son.
Joy.
Tom Toberfest. I don't know if you know that's coming around the corner. Tom Exponential. Tom to the world poet power. We will be all night, and he'll run through that door, and he'll come up with a million more that he's probably used. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for coming. Take care of you for me, and all of you go home safely. And one last time, clap if you are sitting next to someone beautiful. Thank you. Even if you by yourself, you got your shadow. So you never know where you can clap. Thank you all for coming and good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.